The Galactic Council had seen many species rise and fall across the eons. The Zephyrians with their crystalline intellects, the Morgathi with their hive-mind precision, the ancient Celestials who transcended physical form millennia ago, but none had prepared them for humanity. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the edge of the Prometheus station, humanity's first deep space research facility positioned at the boundary between known space and the void, that incomprehensible darkness where physics itself seemed to break down, where ships disappeared without trace, where even the Celestials in their infinite wisdom dared not venture. The readings are impossible, her colleague Dr. Chen whispered, his hands trembling as he reviewed the data streams. The gravitational anomalies, the temporal distortions, it's like reality is unraveling out there. Elena adjusted her modified EVA suit, a hybrid of human engineering and borrowed alien technology. The Council had reluctantly shared their protective systems after 17 research vessels from various species had vanished investigating the void's edge. 17 crews, including some of the galaxy's most advanced minds, consumed by whatever lurked beyond. Dr. Vasquez, came the synthesized voice of Counselor Zeph 97, transmitted across space. We implore you to reconsider. No organic being has survived direct contact with the void phenomena. Your species' tendency toward reckless curiosity will only result in another tragic loss. Elena smiled grimly at the transparent aluminum viewport. Reckless curiosity. That's what they called it when humans had first achieved faster-than-light travel using a method the Council deemed impossibly dangerous. That's what they called it when humans began establishing colonies and systems other species had written off as uninhabitable. Humanity's apparent death wish had somehow become their greatest strength. With respect, Counselor, Elena replied. Humanity didn't crawl out of Earth's gravity well by playing it safe. She sealed her helmet and walked toward the airlock. Behind her, the mixed crew of humans, Zephyrians, and Morgathi watched in a mixture of admiration and horror. The human members of her team wore expressions of pride mixed with terror. They understood what she represented in this moment, not just herself but the entire species that had somehow punched above its weight in a galaxy full of ancient, powerful civilizations. The airlock cycled. Elena stepped into space. The void stretched before her like a wound in reality itself. Where normal space showed distant stars and swirling galaxies, this region showed nothing. Not darkness, nothing. An absence so complete that Elena's enhanced sensors couldn't process it, displaying only error messages and cascading failures. She activated her thrusters and began moving forward. At exactly 47.3 kilometers from the void's edge, Elena's instruments died. Her communications went silent. Her life support displays flickered and went dark. By all rights, she should have died in the next 30 seconds. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Elena discovered she could breathe. Not because her suit was working. It wasn't. She could somehow exist, conscious and aware in the impossible space where reality ended. And more than that, she could sense something vast and ancient stirring in response to her presence. Who dares? The voice wasn't heard but felt, reverberating through dimensions Elena couldn't name. A human, she replied aloud, though speech should have been impossible here. Elena Vasquez, representative of Earth. A pause that might have lasted seconds or centuries. Then impossible. The young species should have perished. The mathematics of this realm forbid biological existence. Elena looked around at the non-space surrounding her. Slowly, patterns began to emerge in the nothingness. Geometries that her human brain struggled to process but somehow could perceive. Maybe that's the problem with your mathematics, she said. Maybe they're missing something. Show me. Elena thought of humanity. Not their technology or their weapons or their grand achievements, but their essence. She thought of her grandmother, who had survived 3 wars and still tended a garden every spring. She thought of children playing in the ruins of bombed cities. She thought of explorers who had sailed into unmapped oceans simply because they were there. She thought of the human capacity to hope in hopeless circumstances, to love in the face of inevitable loss, to create beauty knowing it would one day fade, to persist not because of certainty, but because of stubborn, irrational optimism. The void shifted. Where there had been nothing, Elena began to see structures. Not physical structures, but frameworks of meaning, purpose, connection. The void wasn't empty, it was waiting. waiting for someone who could bridge the gap between what was and what could be. Remarkable, the presence whispered. Your species processes impossibility as opportunity. That's what we do, Elena confirmed. We're really good at being impossible. The space around her suddenly blazed with light. Not the harsh light of stars, but something warmer. More alive. The void was transforming, revealing itself to be not an end, but a beginning. A canvas waiting for the right artist. The council species fear the unknown and seek to catalog it. You embrace it and seek to dance with it. This realm has waited eons for such a perspective. Elena felt herself being gently propelled back toward normal space, toward the research station where dozens of species watched in amazement as the void's edge began to shimmer with possibilities that hadn't existed moments before. When she rematerialized in the station's docking bay, Elena's first words were broadcast to the Galactic Council. The void isn't dangerous. It's just lonely, and it's been waiting for someone brave enough to say hello. Later, when xenobiologists would study the readings from her encounter, they would struggle to explain how a human had survived in conditions that should have been instantly lethal. The official report would classify the incident as an anomalous interaction between human neural patterns and exotic spacetime phenomena. Elena preferred her own explanation. Sometimes the universe just needed someone stubborn enough to refuse to die, and in the transformed region that had once been the void, new possibilities began to bloom. Possibilities that would change the galaxy forever. All because one human had walked into impossible circumstances and responded with that most human of reactions. Well, let's see what happens next.